Heroes vs. Villains in Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a game mode that is based around getting kills. Both you and your enemy team have a set number of elimination tickets. Once you get all 35 tickets, you win. This means that you'll have to rely heavily on survivability, damage output, as well as support for your entire team, which will be the 3 criteria for this tier list. Please keep in mind that this tier list is entirely my opinion and is based around the game mode of Heroes vs. Villains specifically. To start things off in C tier, and in last place, we have Grandmaster Yoda. Yoda's playstyle is based in large around high damage burst attacks. Using his dash, this works very effectively in duels to slowly chip away at your opponent's health. However, in Heroes vs. Villains, this is not as effective. You want to be able to do a lot of damage all at once. This is not very easy to do, especially considering Yoda's swing speed is incredibly slow, at least compared to most others. Yoda does benefit from his health buff for his entire team, and his very small size, but besides that, I still feel like he's relatively low tier in HVV. At number 21, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi is a defensive powerhouse, which works really well in pretty much every mode but HVV. He can be very effective at countering blaster heroes by deflecting their shots right back at them. Still, he has somewhat limited range, even with his push ability, and I find that he simply doesn't have the damage output to be very strong in a 4v4. BB-9E in B tier is the first droid to appear on this list. Although not a popular pick, this little guy can greatly support his team. He has a passive ability that allows constant health regeneration for his team, making it difficult for heroes to get the kill tickets that they need. He can also decrease the cooldown on his team's abilities and prevent any blasters from overheating. But at a base level, he can make fighting his team tricky with his constant stuns. His shock spin, while nowhere near the level of BB-8's cable spin, is a good tool for pushing aggressive heroes away from his team, and in some cases completely off the map. BB-9E may not be able to output absurd damage, but makes up for it with his reliable support for his whole team. Lando Calrissian, while not the strongest character, can be very useful with a coordinated team. His stun is a great tool for completely shutting down advancing opponents, and when used in combination with BB-8's cable spin, it can make killing villains easy. He has great health and can deal damage to the whole enemy team at once. Boba Fett has a vast arsenal of tools to be a nuisance from the skies, but is restricted by certain maps. He struggles to get enough damage for a full kill, and can be taken out quickly when out of jetpack fuel. That being said, he does a good job at shutting down blaster heroes, and can make the more open maps a nightmare when you know how to manage his fuel optimally. He is also the only blaster hero with a dash, which fits his playstyle nicely. Dooku has phenomenal damage. He can take out the likes of high health characters like Chewbacca in mere seconds, and perform well in head-on encounters against saber heroes. He suffers from his lack of ranged attacks, but can be a force to be reckoned with up close. The biggest problem I have with this character is that his lightning stun often bugs out, which makes it completely unreliable. Also, his exposed weakness ability is quite weak, given that it has a very long startup animation with very little payoff. The opponent can simply block for the entire duration of the effect, making it pretty much useless. Lastly, in B tier, we have Rey. I know that there are some people who would put her much higher on the tier list, but personally I can't see her being much better than B tier. This doesn't necessarily mean that I think she's a bad character at all, but rather that I just feel there are characters that are better. Rey is a character that has very limited range, but when you do get in, she can do some pretty good damage. She has a very strong parry combo as well as some very high tier statistics, but I've found that her mind trick is actually not that hard to counter. Ultimately, one could consider her an A tier or S tier character, but in my opinion she just doesn't have a whole lot going for her compared to some other characters. To start off A tier, Darth Maul has top tier agility and useful abilities. He's meant to be played aggressively, but can be shut down due to his low health pool. This is another case of the character not necessarily being bad, but just slightly worse than others in my opinion. Luke Skywalker has good stamina, swing speed, and plenty of combo potential. His dash strikes grant him excellent mobility. All around, he is a very strong and solid character. His main problem is that he doesn't have very good health regeneration, which can leave him at a very low health. His playstyle works a little awkwardly in Heroes vs. Villains, as he excels at staying on the move and chasing you down. In HVV, you want to be able to stick with your team as much as you can. If Luke was a little more survivable, I definitely think he would be close to S tier. Phasma can be very strong with a well-coordinated team. Her drone will make an attack on her team a meticulous process. She has great health, and of course, her health ability making her very survivable. As far as cons go, if you do get low with her, her somewhat poor regeneration capability can make it difficult to get back up to good health. It can be easy in some situations to knock her away from the drone and then kill her. You can also jump into the drone to avoid the stun effect with some characters. I still think she fits comfortably in A tier, given her incredibly strong drone and her ability to stay alive. Iden Versio places 12th on the list. Her secondary fire will annihilate an enemy's health, even through blocks. She doesn't even need to be able to see you to kill you with the blast radius on those blue orbs. She can hold her own in a 1v1 with her stun ability, and has a shield which can help her to stay alive against blaster heroes. When her abilities are on cooldown, however, her low health can make her an easy kill. General Grievous comes just short of the top 10. Despite the recent nerfs that he received, the Clanker General is still top tier in a 4v4. His Claw Rush allows him to knock down his enemies in the midst of battle, and is a good way to open up defensive players. It can also allow him to safely retreat at any moment. With the Flesh as weak star card, this guy is practically unkillable, thanks to his already high health and the damage reduction that the card gives him. He can deal with multiple opponents at once and come out alive. His stamina may be horrible, but it can be managed by using abilities to buy time for it to recharge. Overall, Grievous is an excellent choice for this mode. Anakin Skywalker is a strong pick in Heroes vs. Villains. His ability combos do good damage, he has excellent health and solid swing speed. His pull ability is effective at getting an aggressive enemy away from weak teammates, and he can easily throw you into the void on some maps if you aren't careful. Back in the day, Anakin would easily be S tier, but now his low stamina and glitchy gameplay lead to him being a little behind. I still think he's an excellent character when he doesn't glitch out, especially in the hands of an experienced player. Kylo Ren is a very solid character. He has good stamina, health, swing speed, and abilities. His pull ability can be used in combination with Vader's choke with some good coordination, but is still very solid on its own. His freeze can help him to buy time in a tight situation, or grant him a free hit on an opponent. On top of all that, his frenzy ability can do great damage and finish off weak opponents. Coming in at number 8, we have the Evil Emperor Palpatine. A good Palpatine player can use his top tier movement to dash through the battlefront, constantly dealing out damage to the heroes while staying just out of reach. Even against blaster heroes, he can be hard to land shots on in the right setting. He can easily shut down Leia's bubble and make trying to fight his team challenging with his constant lightning attacks on the table. With excellent damage output and strong survivability, Palpatine is a top-tier character. Next up, we have the Wookiee Hunter himself. Bossk's 3 abilities are centered around trapping and delaying health regeneration to his opponents, and he can deal some serious damage with those proximity mines. He's also exceptional at running in and out of the fight to deal some damage and then back off. The main problem that keeps him from being higher up, though, is the fact that when he is attacked up close, he doesn't really have a chance to escape and will, more often than not, die to the character he's fighting. Overall, though, he can be annoying to deal with if played by someone who knows what they're doing. At number 6, we have Han Solo's furry companion, Chewbacca. Chewie really is a blast to use, and it helps that he's a solid pick as well. His abilities can all be chained together to pull off some really easy kills on unsuspecting opponents, and his star cards make them even better. The fact that he can shoot you through blocks is what really makes him top tier, though. You're basically forced to take out a Chewie player before anyone else in order to win the game, as if you don't, he'll be constantly chipping away at your health while you try to fight. Leia Organa is undeniably high tier in HVV. Her E11 is utterly broken in terms of damage, and her grenades do a great job at interfering with ongoing fights between both teams. She does have a couple of drawbacks that in my opinion put her slightly behind Han Solo. I feel that Han does a better job up close compared to Leia, especially when getting jumped by a saber user. Leia's grenades often bounce in awkward directions when used in close encounters, and when she doesn't have her E11 at the ready, she can be pretty vulnerable to attacks. Her shield bubble can be very useful against enemy blasters, and gives a small amount of health over time to you and your team, but is in my opinion fairly weak in HVV, mostly because of Palpatine. If the hero team has a Leia on their side, I'll usually switch to Palpatine because he completely turns the bubble around on the heroes, making it a great tool for him and a great detriment to Leia and her team. Han Solo has absurd damage and can stand his ground against aggressive saber villains, while still having the ability to keep constant fire on the enemy team. He can single-handedly shift the entire tide of the match in the right hands. Although he has some very good ability combos, his sharp shot ability is not incredibly good, and he's not exactly a good team player, as he has a lack of support abilities. Finn sits comfortably in S tier. His ability to support his team is uncontested. Despite not having the greatest damage potential, he is an essential part of any team composition. He has the power to make his entire team borderline invincible. I won't even start with his overpowered glitches. Finn is the ultimate support character with strong buffs on health, damage reduction, movement speed, ability recharge, and weapon cooldown. He is also a great counter for hard-to-hit characters like Palpatine or Boba Fett. The runner-up on my list is a little controversial. BB-8 is often considered to be incredibly low tier, but I think that's a misinterpretation. I mean, look at him. Who would think that such a tiny and cute little droid could be powerful? The facts are that BB-8 is incredibly effective at providing support to his team, whilst being able to put out massive amounts of damage and survive it all. Despite having only 650 health, this little droid has some of the best health regen in the game, with the right star cards, and can stay just out of reach of lightsaber attacks while using the shock prod. BB-8's size is so small that he can effortlessly weave around blaster fire. Just try hitting this guy when he's jumping and dashing all around you. His passive ability reduces the cooldown on teammates' abilities by up to 20%, allowing for constant use of powerful attacks, and his resistance backing ability increases the damage of those set attacks while disrupting the enemy's radar. Cable Spin is great for 4v4 situations and can force the enemy away from you and your team. It can also be used aggressively, resulting in ludicrous amounts of damage. Finally, Rolling Charge is a fantastic tool for finishing off those pesky villains that try to hold on to a sliver of health. It does damage through blocks and knocks down opponents when not blocked, much like Han Solo's Shoulder Charge. It can also be used as a movement tool to escape dangerous situations. BB-8's main weakness is his lack of vertical mobility, similarly to most blaster heroes. Still, his incredible versatility makes him a top pick in my opinion. As you could have predicted, Vader takes the #1 spot on this list. Pretty much everyone that plays Battlefront knows that Vader is an absolute monster in every mode. He can effortlessly take on an entire team of heroes, thanks to his absurd health and excellent ability combos. Vader is an essential pick on any team. Now that'll bring an end to this video, but I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider dropping a like down below, subscribing, and commenting about what you liked the most. It would also be greatly appreciated if you could share this video with a friend, but besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.